Hey guys, before we get started with the video, I just wanted to put this message out there. I said something similar at the beginning of the last video that I put out in terms of our fantasy bookings, but just in case you didn't catch that, I wanted to give you another fair warning that unfortunately the last two recordings, be it the Universal and then this video, there are a lot of audio problems. I didn't catch them until after I started editing, and so unfortunately there was nothing I could do. I'm leaving to visit my family for a while, so unfortunately I couldn't re-record, so there was really nothing that I could do to fix it. So the voice is going to be robotic. It's going to be a little echoey. You can still understand everything perfectly, but it does get a little bit annoying. I hate it. I truly do. I do apologize, and I'm going to work to try and make sure it doesn't happen in the future. I know the reasons why it happened, but obviously there's just nothing I could do to fix these. So hopefully you guys still enjoy the video, and I hope you all are having a very happy holiday season and Merry Christmas for those of you who do celebrate that. But again, just thank you for your patience, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Welcome back to the Lopes Goes Last podcast channel, where we are now into part 4 of our series where we are booking every single major title feud in WWE from now all the way through WrestleMania. I'm joined once again by Dan Lindsay. He keeps coming back for more, folks, so I guess I'm doing something right. But this week's episode is going to be booking the World Heavyweight Championship from now all the way through WrestleMania. As I mentioned before, we booked the Universal Championship last week, so if you missed that, please go check that out. We had a lot of fun doing that, and we had two very different paths that we took to get there, and so you're definitely going to get a lot of different aspects of creativity there. You're going to get to see several different options, different opportunities for a whole different crew of guys. So very interesting, and this week I feel like might even be more so. It's going to be pretty insane to kind of see where we go with this. I think both of us probably feel like we are somehow a little bit more in-depth with this feud and this booking than we were with the Universal title feud and booking. Do you think that's fair?
I do think that is fair. I think there's a lot more at stake in a sense for a lot more people. We were talking earlier tonight where, you know, when you have a main event scene, you have the two main eventers, but you're building up like semi-main event, I think is the word you used, and then you're kind of building up another pool under them. So every time you take someone down, you have to have someone ready to go right up. And the World Heavyweight Championship title has been that for 3-4 months now. And every time we kind of get a little new piece or a little more of a nuance. You know, we had McIntyre with Judgment Day, but he was like, "Hey, I'm aligning with you, but to serve a purpose," and that didn't really work out for him at Survivor Series, you know. So I mean, but that kept him in that scene. That's kept Damien kind of aware of the scene. That's kind of kept Finn in and out of the scene. Rollins has kind of just handed out matches to Jay and to who's the other guy I'm thinking of that he kind of just handed out a match to Sammy, which has really helped further Drew's story. So yeah, there's that the picture is just so many players, and that makes it fun. I think that makes the fantasy booking harder in a sense, because it's like you can go so many different directions. But yeah, no, I'm almost a lot more excited for this one than probably actually any title picture right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is definitely the one that I had to put the most thought into outside of booking the actual Royal Rumble, which I'll be doing. But it's definitely going to be very interesting to see where we go, because even me not having really any idea where you're going to be going with this, I can pretty much 100% guarantee that it's not even going to be remotely close to where I'm going with it, just because of the people that I know are going to be involved and all the things that I have going on with it. So, and plus knowing that the Royal Rumble winner for him, at least, even though I don't know who necessarily that is involved in the world title, which if you saw our Universal title booking, you will know that I have Cody winning, which means that it has nothing to do with the Rumble, Rumble winner. So I would assume that even just on that alone, it's just going to be vastly different, and it's just going to be completely different all the way, I assume, until WrestleMania. So we'll see what happens. But before we actually get into the matches, you know, who's going to be fighting for the title at Rumble or at Elimination Chamber, let's start with the giant elephant in the room, and no, that giant elephant is not CM Punk for once. It is Damian Priest, Senior Money in the Bank. I feel like right now, based on where the title picture is, he's kind of just there. Like, he's a little bit shoehorned in there. There's not really a real fit for him. If you're comfortable with it, where do you have Damian Priest fitting into this whole World Heavyweight Championship story? Is there a cash-in? Is there not a cash-in? What are you willing to share?
So I think we're going to see... I have it as 2 more cash-ins before we get to Rumble.
2 more cash-ins?
2 more cash-in attempts.
Oh, 2 more... Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
2 more cash-in attempts.
Is there a Miss Money in the Bank still? Didn't they get rid of that a while ago?
Sorry, 2 more cash-in attempts by Priest before we even get to Rumble. Because again... Oh, no, I think you'll enjoy this. I like you were saying, it's like... I'm very excited to see where you've gone. You can make a little taste of some stuff that you're in your head. I've been really working on this. I have a good commute for my work right now. Usually anywhere from 35 to 50 minutes or an hour.
Oof.
So I'm listening to podcasts, but then I'm just like, so it gives me ideas. But I don't want to really steal everything from that. It's like, like, okay, that could work, but maybe this or that instead. But it's like, what would be fun again. Anywhere you put Priest right now, he, like you said, he's just there. So he's going to have to get shoehorned somewhere. But I feel like the longer you wait to do it, we talked about, I think, this in between recordings last week, the longer you wait for him to cash in, if it's a successful cash in, you have to give him a decent reign, or it's kind of like, well, that was fun. Okay, let's forget about him for another 6 months or a year until we see him somewhere else. And it's like, well, where do you put him after he's been the Money in the Bank winner for a long time? I think Money in the Bank is hard to do. I think back in the Attitude Era, post-Attitude Era is a lot more fun. You guys had a lot of main players in the main title picture, so that helped with the cash in. It's like the right guys usually seem to kind of win the Money in the Bank. It wasn't like just winning the Money in the Bank. It's like, oh, what are we going to do here? Oh, well. So I think Priest kind of brings that Money in the Bank level up. So my first attempt for him cashing in is actually going to be day 1 on Raw, New Year's Day.
Makes sense.
That's good, and I don't want to reveal too much, but at the same time, it's not going to quite work out. But so he's going to have to do something else to still make that Money in the Bank relevant, but to finally get what he wants. But I think it's gonna, again, the way I have it booked, is to make him still stay relevant in that picture for a while. So do you want to reveal anything, or do you want to just jump into the Rumble? So I don't want to give everything away. Kind of like what you didn't say when he was going to actually cash in, or if it would be successful or not. I want to go that route too. I don't want to reveal that. But I will say, Damian Priest is very heavily involved in this booking, and I think, quite frankly, I'm not going to say what it is until obviously when that time comes. I think there is only one way to make this all make sense, to have it not compromise stories that are happening or are going to happen, and still have Damian Priest walk away looking like an absolute megastar. Not to steal from LA Knight. But I think there's only one way that it happens, and I have booked it that way. So hopefully it makes sense, and hopefully you guys like it. Maybe not necessarily agree that that's the only way, but it's the only way that I could think of in my very limited pea-sized brain. So we'll see what happens. But I'm very excited to see where you go with it, where I go with it. But it seems like Mr. Money in the Bank is going to be very, very heavily involved in these stories. I agree. I think he definitely has to be. So, going into the Royal Rumble, I think what I'm going to do is I will start. We'll do the same thing that we've done in other videos. If you haven't seen them, this is your first time here. First of all, like the video, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Second of all, if this is your first time here, the way we do it is we basically have checkpoints at each
PLE, or Premium Live Event, pay-per-view, for those of you who still go by that verbiage. And so that means that we will be discussing from now through the Royal Rumble, and then we will switch, and then obviously Dan will discuss from now to the Royal Rumble, and then maybe I will go from the Royal Rumble to Elimination Chamber, and then he'll go, and then I'll go all the way to WrestleMania, and we'll flip-flop back and forth. That way, we can each give our perspectives, and we're not each sitting here talking for 35 minutes from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania, and then the next person talks for 30, and then nobody remembers anything. It's just going to be a whole convoluted mess if we do that. So hopefully you guys enjoy. I will go first. So I felt like I had really nothing by comparison to the WWE Champion, or excuse me, in comparison to the World Championship. I felt like I had nothing for the Universal Championship. This booking, based on what I have happening at the Rumble, which is obviously Cody Rhodes winning. I've already mentioned it here, and I put it in other videos as well. It's not a secret. I had to tell stories to make the world title picture and that kind of come along and make sense. I don't think that Cody versus Roman needs a whole lot of storytelling at this point. We all know what the story is. That's all they gosh darn talk about. Yep. So we don't need crazy convoluted stories or little tiny story bits here and there. But the world title, I think, really does. Especially to elevate it to the level that we want it to be, which is an equal title to the Universal title. I think it needs a lot more love, a little bit more salt and pepper, if you will. So, here's what I have. Drew McIntyre versus Seth freaking Rollins at the Day 1 version of Monday Night Raw on New Year's Day? I assume it's New Year's Day? Yes. So, New Year's Day. Drew McIntyre is much more aggressive. He is dominating Seth. In the first matchup they had, I can't remember where it was. Was it Crown Jewel?
I think Crown Jewel.
I think it was Crown Jewel. Drew hesitated. Drew saw that Seth was in pain, and he was a good guy at that point, and he felt bad. He didn't want to end Seth Rollins' career. He hesitated. Seth took advantage, got the win. Drew's not going to hesitate on this night. Drew is going to absolutely destroy Seth. Seth is in the worst possible way, but Seth is, fighting as best he can. Drew's getting tired. He's hit Seth with a Claymore. He hit Seth with 2 Claymores. He's setting up for a third one just to solidify, yes, I am not the same Drew. I am destroying you. And then Damian Priest's music hits while the match is still going on. Drew's still in the corner, ready to count down 3, 2, 1, and Damian Priest comes in to try to cash in. And Drew is just staring daggers through Damian. He's very tired, so he is beat up and tired enough for Damian Priest for it to make sense for him to choose right now to try and cash in. Because Seth is just a dead... He's not even he's a corpse at this point in this match. He's done. So Damian tries to cash in. As Damian hands the briefcase to the referee, he turns around, he gets hit with a Claymore. Drew's not having it. No, this is my moment. Drew slides back in the ring, curb stomp, 1, 2, 3, Seth retains. Drew goes on an absolute rampage. He just starts beating Seth half to death and beats up Damian Priest. He is furious that he got cost this championship, because he did. It's pretty clear he got cost the championship. Damian Priest ruined it. But crucially, the bell never rang. Damian Priest still does have the briefcase, but again, heavily involved. The next week, Drew storms into Adam Pearce's office and demands another match against Seth Rollins. And surprisingly, Adam Pearce agrees. And Drew says, wait, what's the catch? He goes, the catch is, if you lose this match, I don't care how it happens. You're not getting another shot. You've had 2. You get a third. You got costed this time. I'll give it to you. You don't get another one. I don't care what happens. And that's very important for what happens at the Rumble, because that third match between Seth and Drew will happen at the Royal Rumble. Fast forward to the Rumble. Obviously, you could say whatever you want happens in between. They yell at each other. They punch each other.
Only so many weeks between each.
Yeah, there's only a couple of weeks, right? So it doesn't matter. Just have them do whatever you want. That's not the important part. The important part is the Rumble. And Seth versus Drew is, I think, I mean, I would have it open the show if it wasn't for the other Rumble match. I think you kind of have to bookend it with Rumbles. But I would say maybe you put it on second. Why not? Put it on second.
Sure.
Early in the night, that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
So, Drew is doing the exact same thing that he did on Raw. He is dominating Seth. He's not hesitating. He hits him with one Claymore. He hits him with two Claymores. He's about ready to count down 3, 2, 1, and then he turns his head. He makes sure. No Damian Priest, right? Nobody's going to cost me this time? We're good? Okay. 3, 2, 1. He goes for a third Claymore. Seth, in a rare act of desperation, pulls the referee into the line of fire, and the referee takes a Claymore. And Drew is angry that he just took out the ref, but also a little surprised that Seth is desperate. Seth knows he can't beat Drew right now. And that's all playing into Drew's head. He knows he's got Seth beat. He's just got to figure out a way to get it done. But he sits in the corner. He stares out towards the ring, or towards the outside of the ring. He's staring. He's looking. He's trying to see, all right, what am I going to use? Because I'm going to use a weapon. I'm going to beat him up with a chair. I'm going to hit him with the ring bell. I'm going to get a kendo stick. I don't care what I'm going to do. All of a sudden, the crowd starts cheering. He turns around into a haluva kick from a returning Sami Zayn, who Drew took out a few weeks ago, as of time of recording, with a knee injury after Sami basically said that Drew was being a whiny baby, essentially. And then Drew beat the tar out of Sami.
Yes, he did.
Sami returns, haluva kick, just as the ref's getting up, curb stomp, 1, 2, 3, trifecta. Seth Rollins retains. No Damian Priest, but Sami Zayn just cost Drew not only the title, but according to Adam Pearce, a shot at the championship. He can't challenge for that championship anymore. Or can he? Find out later. That's my booking through the Rumble.
All right. I'm liking it. I think.
By the way, folks, I tried so hard to keep that as short as I could. Just so you know, there was a lot more there. But anyway.
We can do like a director's cut later, maybe.
Yes, maybe.
Secondary video. It's like here's the fine details of week by week by week.
Yep.
I think we're kind of so far. I think we're in like a similar line of thinking. You know, to me,
that won't last long, folks.
The World Heavyweight Championship to me is Drew McIntyre's story right now. I like seeing this aggressive side of him. He's a big Scottish burly dude. It's like, why, let's be aggressive. Let's be semi-heel. Because, I guess he's basically turned full heel at this point. But we've seen him play both sides. So I'm really enjoying the story. Day one, not long away, we get, we have Drew and Seth on the docket. I'm actually very much, I was kind of scared when you were saying this. I have kind of the same exact thing of Damon coming down during the match, because it's, again, they're beating the crap out of each other. We've seen him do it before. They're doing it again. If you remember at Crown Jewel, I believe, Sami ran down during Crown Jewel and stole the briefcase from Damian, so Damian couldn't cash in. I'm seeing the same exact scenario here, except Jey Uso. Jey Uso comes down and was like, I got Rollins' back. We all had fun at Survivor Series. I still got Rollins' back for now. So he comes down. He's like, Damian, you don't get to do this tonight. So, he eats him out of the arena or whatever, Jey Uso interferes. Drew's like, what, this stuff again? Turns around, they trade barbs, whatever, but Rollins is a victor. And I think you even go as far as like Rollins wins with a, just a quick roll with the tights. because those wins always kind of translate into WWE.
I really thought about that. That was my initial idea, was to just have a quick roll-up and Drew's ticked off and then still loses and still beats everybody up. But then I was like, you know what?
Because those are...
Damien's got to do something. Yeah. Like, you can't just sit there with the briefcase and do nothing forever, so I ended up adding that in.
So I think, so Damien comes down, Drew pushes, Damien, nope, you don't get to do that tonight. And, just quick roll-up win for Rollins, because that's kind of a quote-unquote cheap win. That's by WWE standard. It's like, hey, we let him win, but it's kind of like, it's kind of not the finish we want the fans to see, so we get another match. We get that next match at Rumble. But with Jay being involved, Pierce is like, look, Rollins, you're going to have to face both... before Rob goes off air for day one, Pierce comes out, says, hey, I'm inserting at Rumble Jay into this. We're doing a triple threat match. Rollins,
that's a great idea.
Jay, and Drew at Royal Rumble. The next Monday, Judgment Day starts off the show. Damian Priest is like, look, I'm getting tired of everybody taking this briefcase moment away from me. My own teammates have, messed this up for me. Sammy's messed this up for me. Jay's now messed this up for me. I am cashing this contract in tonight to start the show and put my name on that match and make it a fatal 4-way at Royal Rumble.
Oh, wow.
So we're going all of it. We're going all
You're going all in.
Yes. So the night after the week after day one, we get Priest, fatal 4-way Royal Rumble. A couple weeks, we've get all of them back and forth for a while. So Priest gets in, and again, what we were talking about with the Universal title, when you're talking about your fatal 4-way, you don't necessarily have to have the champion be pinned to change titles. So at Rumble, since you have all 4 of them, I'm putting the title on Priest at Royal Rumble.
A successful cash-in.
I
just want everybody to know that if that does happen, that will only be the second time in history that a pre-announced Money in the Bank cash-in winner was successful. The only other time, Rob Van Dam in 2006, when he beat John Cena in the ECW arena, in one of my favorite matches of all time, in which fans hated John Cena so much because they were ECW fans, and Rob Van Dam was an ECW original, that John Cena threw his shirt into the crowd, a guy took his pants off, wiped his butt with it, and threw it back in the ring. Great time. Anyway.
And to me, right now, you can only give Priest the win by having him pin Jay. The only way you can get Priest pinning Jay, this will further my story along the road to Mania. Priest pins Jay because Rollins and McIntyre have such bad blood. From day one, before day one, going back to Saudi Arabia, that they just start, after a while, after the match just starts to break down, they're just out in the crowd fighting, and we just eventually just don't even see them anymore. They're backstage or whatever, they're just fighting. We cut to them every once in a while, just so we can get an update on what they're doing. They're just, beating the junk out of each other.
Sure. Backstage,
chairs, whatever. Because, if it's, triple threat, fatal 4-way, there's basically no rules. And I think you need that with these 4. With those 2 especially, but with the 4 all involved, it's like no rules, anything happens. So I think that leads Priest beating Jay. I think you get a little interference from Dominic, actually. Dominic comes down, gives that quick distraction while they're out there, and Priest wins. Priest gets Jay. So
okay.
But the story gets a little more fun with Rumble, because as we talked about at the beginning of this episode, my Rumble winner is involved in the World Heavyweight, is not in the Universal title picture, he's in the World Heavyweight Championship title picture. The last 5 men standing in the Rumble I have is Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, and Jimmy Uso. Jimmy gets tossed by whomever. Let's just say Rollins. Punk tosses out Rollins. We'll get back to those 2 in a little while. Rhodes tosses out Punk. And so we have Rhodes and Punk final 2. But
I thought you said Rhodes tosses out Punk.
It's Rhodes and McIntyre final 2. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
I'm getting my names confused now. Too many names. But again, that's what makes this exciting is like, where are you going to fit everybody in? So your final 2 in the Rumble are Drew and Cody. But instead of Cody winning, I have Drew winning the Royal Rumble. Again, I know we've seen this. There's very few multiple Rumble winners. But again, I think that harkens to Drew's story. I think it goes back to, I want to win this in front of people. I don't like that my championship run, my Rumble win, I think if I have this correctly. But, so many of his run from a couple years ago was during the pandemic in front of no people.
Sure.
And so that's part of his story right now. And, I want this in front of people. I deserve this in front of people. That's why he's become a madman. So he wins Rumble. He wins the men's Rumble. And then we get Drew McIntyre very quickly saying, I want whoever's World Heavyweight Championship at Time of Mania. I'm going for that title. No problem.
Okay. Definitely way different than where I am going with that. So I like that a lot. The only thing that I will say about that as to why I wouldn't love to see McIntyre win the Rumble again, it's not because he's already won it. Like, that doesn't matter. I have Cody winning mine. He's already won it last year. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is everything you said would make sense in terms of that's part of his story. And I would say yes, except for the fact that he already fought for the WWE Championship in front of people at WrestleMania and lost to Bobby Lashley. And I know we don't talk about that because it was a real dark spell in Drew's kind of career, and it was like a weird, Bobby was champion, but they didn't really do much with him, and, it was kind of an odd time, but they told that story already. Hey, last time I was here, there was no people. I want my title in front of people, and he lost. So for me, you already told that story at WrestleMania. I wouldn't buy in as much to tell it again. I think you got to tell it in a different way. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like they've already told it at WrestleMania once. Yeah. And he failed. Yeah. So, now granted, it would be a lot worse if he succeeded, and then they tried to tell it again, and it's like, what, didn't you already do
right.
Like, that would be worse, but at the same time, yeah. I already heard that story before from Drew.
And I feel like we have a little bit of a different Drew. We have more Rampage Drew
sure.
and anything, too, so I think that helps. A little bit of a different Drew, different players in the field now.
Yeah.
And I think that's valid. It's to me, but again, I look at this World Heavyweight picture of Rollins has been great. He has been a great fighting champion. He has shown up week in, week out, like he said he would, to combat not seeing Roman once every 6 weeks or at PLEs only. Rollins has been the champion we all want in a way of that picture. I've seen him. But I think it's time to move the title off of Rollins, and I'll get into that a little bit too. We have so many players in this picture now. Let's start giving these guys a little bit more of a chance.
Sure, I completely agree with that aspect of it. Certainly, I think that there's a lot of guys that are in that picture and deserve the title, but I just don't have it happening yet at Rumble. So definitely. Really, really awesome. I think that would certainly be... I don't think anybody would expect Drew McIntyre to win the Rumble this year. So it would certainly be a shock. And so I think that definitely, in terms of shock value, that would really...
If he's in the Final 5 when you're down there in a few weeks...
I'm going to
text you, I told you so.
I know to be like... Well, I have him in the final... Oh, crap. I've already booked the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think he's in the final 5 or the final 6. Okay. It's very close. It's like the final 5, 6, or 7. It's pretty, but he's the reason why he's there, and again, I'll give you guys a little taste, is because he has to eliminate somebody after he's already been eliminated by that person. Because I'm setting something up, of which I will talk about right now. There's a few things that need to happen at the Royal Rumble that I didn't talk about in the match. Okay. Now, generally speaking, my rule is, if you are in a title match at Royal Rumble, you are not in the Royal Rumble.
Which I just completely blew up because I put everybody basically back.
No, and that's fine. So does WWE. WWE blows it up. They do it sometimes. They don't do it other times. It depends. My one exception this year is Drew McIntyre. I have him in a championship match at the Rumble, and then I have him in the Royal Rumble. And I don't remember where I have him coming in. I have him coming in sometime in the middle of the match. And he stays almost all the way to the end. So obviously he's already angry at Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn, I have entering the Royal Rumble at number 2. And lasting all the way to the end. Now, not all the way to the final 2, but all the way to the final 5, 6, 7, like I just mentioned. I can't remember exactly. I have Drew McIntyre getting so infatuated with Sami Zayn and just beating him up to try to eliminate him and talking trash that Drew's not paying attention. He gets eliminated from the Royal Rumble by CM Punk. And as we've seen over the last few weeks, he hates CM Punk. He hates him. And so when he is now cost another shot at the world title by CM Punk, he can't take it. He's already snapped at day 1. He's already snapped at Royal Rumble on everybody, just losing his ever-loving mind. He doesn't even care about the rules. He just jumps in the ring and absolutely annihilates CM Punk and throws him over the top rope and just keeps on beating up CM Punk. So Punk's eliminated too. That's how you further that story. Drew McIntyre hates CM Punk, and now Drew's cost CM Punk a shot at the world title, like what he's been saying he's wanted. Mm-hmm. So those a couple things. That's a couple things that need to happen at Rumble. Moving on to post Royal Rumble. So just to clarify again, Seth Rollins is still the champion. Damian Priest is still Mr. Money in the Bank. Drew eliminated CM Punk, and CM Punk eliminated Drew. You guys get it. The next night on Raw, Drew McIntyre is told the same thing that Pierce told him before the Rumble. I told you. You had 3 shots. I didn't care what happened. You don't get another one. And so, I, Adam Pierce, am announcing a what's it called? A series of matches. Qualifiers. That's the word I'm looking for. Qualifying matches for the Elimination Chamber. Because the Elimination Chamber will be for the World Heavyweight Championship. The matches are, not necessarily in this particular order, but Johnny Gargano versus Ludwig Kaiser, Tommaso Ciampa versus Giovanni Vinci, Sami Zayn versus Ivar, Chad Gable versus The Miz, and Ricochet versus Dominic Mysterio. Those are your qualifiers. Notice that Drew McIntyre is not in any of those qualifiers. Drew loses it.
And as a standalone, just those matches, that's some fun matchups right there.
Exactly.
That's some fun matchups. Right
and the I will just say this before I spoil who wins any of these matches. My goal for the World Heavyweight Championship Elimination Chamber is going to be very similar to what the goal was for last year's United States Championship Elimination Chamber. You obviously got Seth. He was in the United States Chamber too. And I'm hoping to fill it with a bunch of guys that don't really get a whole lot of chance to shine. Put them in a chamber for the world title. Let's see what happens. We've all seen Jay fight for it. We've all seen Drew fight for it. We've all seen, well, Sammy, he is in the tournament. But we've all seen Sammy fight for it, but only once. Mm-hmm. And it was a really good match, by the way.
Yes, it was.
There's a bunch of guys that we've kind of seen up at the top there. Shinsuke. I don't want any of or almost any, Sammy is in it, but almost any of those guys in this chamber. I want to see a chamber full of guys that don't get a lot of opportunity for a world title. Because you know why? If what you want at these B-show pay-per-views in front of crowds is entertainment value, give them the best matches you can. Sure, I already talked about in my last video, Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton. That's your legend match, right? Or legend killer, whatever. Match in this case. That all the fans are going to want to see. Just give them an absolute steal the show style match on top of it. So, that's my goal for this chamber. I hope that I succeed. In your mind, and in your mind. I succeeded in my mind, but I'm always wrong. So we'll see how that goes. Okay. Again, the matches are Johnny Gargano versus Ludwig Kaiser, Tommaso Ciampa versus Giovanni Vinci, Sami Zayn versus Ivar, Chad Gable versus The Miz, and Ricochet versus Dominic Mysterio. Again, they're not in any particular order. They will all happen within the first 2 weeks after Royal Rumble, but they are not in any particular order the way I just listed them there. The winners of these matches, again, in no particular order, are Johnny Gargano beats Ludwig Kaiser clean. That furthers the Imperium story where Ludwig Kaiser continues to not get the job done. Tommaso Ciampa beats Giovanni Vinci because Gunther told Giovanni Vinci not to help Ludwig Kaiser during his match with Johnny. So Ludwig had no help, Johnny beats him clean. He also told Ludwig Kaiser that Giovanni Vinci could beat Tommaso Ciampa by himself, and so do not come out there and interfere. Ludwig Kaiser tries to come out and interfere, accidentally costs Vinci the match, and Ciampa advances. So Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, both members of DIY, are in the Elimination Chamber. Sami Zayn defeats Ivar after McIntyre tries to interfere and cost Sami Zayn the match, but because Drew McIntyre is just having the worst kind of weeks, he fails, Sami wins anyway, and it just pisses Drew McIntyre off even more.
Is that possible?
I don't know, but we're trying to get there. We're trying to get there. And then Chad Gable versus The Miz. Obviously, The Miz is a little bit different character than he has been, so I think this will be much more of a sportsmanship, gamesmanship style match than what we would have seen. I would much prefer to see that with Miz in that light, the way he's performed lately, but I still have Chad Gable winning clean and advancing to the chamber. And last but not least, as much as it hurts me,
oh boy,
and as much as I love my wife's favorite wrestler, and he's one of my favorite wrestlers too. And full disclosure, before I thought of this idea, I did actually have Ricochet as the 6th member of this chamber, because who doesn't want to see Ricochet in an Elimination Chamber match?
Exactly.
But the story is just too darn good. Dom wins. Dominic Mysterio enters the chamber as the 6th man. And here's one of the reasons why. Otherwise, it'd be 5 baby faces in there, or 6 baby faces in there. And while that would be a lot of fun, I think you need to have Dominic in there just to have everybody stop cheering and just start booing relentlessly. Like, I think that's just a nice contrast. And plus, I mean, that's a little fun story between, hey, Damian, maybe you can face me for the World Championship. And Damian's just like, I think I'm going to kill this kid, But anyway, so again, winners, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Sami Zayn, Chad Gable, and Dominic Mysterio, and then obviously your champion, Seth freaking Rollins. I don't know about you guys, but I want to see that chamber. That chamber sounds like a lot of fun. So, meanwhile, those happen in the first 2 weeks after Rumble. McIntyre's furious that he's not in this match. So during those 2 weeks, each of the 2 weeks, he attacks 2 different people. The 4 people that he attacks backstage, some of them, they're just laid out. Some of them, you actively see him beating them up, so you know it's McIntyre doing it. He attacks Akira Tozawa. He attacks Apollo Crews. The second week after Ricochet loses in the qualifier, he beats up Ricochet, and he takes out R-Truth. I have a nice little fun thing where JD and Dominic Mysterio actually find R-Truth, and they actually feel bad for him that Drew beat him up. Kind of telling a story, maybe these guys kind of are starting to like R-Truth a little bit. I think, you know why? Because it's just so much gosh darn fun on TV what they're doing with R-Truth right now. Why not, right?
Why not?
Having a little thing. I don't really have much else in the booking with R-Truth after that, but let's just throw it in there just because it's fun, okay? As the attacks continue, the last person he attacks in the second week is Akira Tozawa. You see him doing it, and he drags Tozawa out to the ring. He grabs a microphone, and he says, I'm not going to try to do the big Scottish accent here, by the way. I'm going to embarrass myself. So, Pierce, this is going to keep happening until you give me what I want. I want in that chamber. And Pierce finally relents and comes out and says, Drew, I can't do that. Even if I wanted to put you in the chamber, all these guys earned it. I'm not putting you in the chamber, but I can do something else. I can put you in a match at Elimination Chamber. And if you win that match, you will be the number one contender for the World Heavyweight Championship at Wrestlemania. So whoever wins the chamber, if you win your match, you will be facing them at Mania. And Drew puts down Akira Tozawa's corpse.
I'm just picturing that right now.
Yeah, exactly. And Drew goes, okay, I guess I'll have to take it, but my question is, who's my opponent? And Pierce says, the man that you cost a shot at the world title, CM Punk. So CM Punk's first match back in the company is not against Seth Rollins. It's not for a title. It's not at WrestleMania. His first match back is in Perth, Australia against Drew McIntyre for the number one contendership for the World Heavyweight Championship. Okay. There's also triple threat matches to determine who will be the number 6 entrant in the chamber. Those triple threat matches are going to be Johnny Gargano versus Chad Gable versus Seth freaking Rollins. Why? Because who wouldn't want to see those three get into a ring together? The other match is going to be Sami Zayn versus Dominic Mysterio versus Tommaso Ciampa. The winner of those matches are Chad Gable and Sami Zayn. Because who wouldn't want to see Chad Gable versus Sami Zayn, by the way? You're going to notice something, folks. I have Chad Gable doing a lot of winning in this booking. Because he deserves it. Okay, so here's the kicker. The winner of that one-on-one match, because the winners of the triple threat matches are going to face each other to determine who's the number 6 entrant. The kicker is that the loser is the number 1 entrant.
I like it.
Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable. It's a great match, but ultimately Sami Zayn wins the match and is the number 6 entrant. I know, I swerved you. You probably thought I was going to say Gable because I said he's doing a lot of winning. Not in this particular moment. He does lose that. So Chad Gable has to start the Elimination Chamber where Sami Zayn is the number 6 entrant. Fast forward to Elimination Chamber. Tommaso Ciampa and Chad Gable are the 2 to start. Full disclosure to all of you and to you, I actually had my original booking, I had Seth Rollins and Johnny Gargano starting because, yeah. But I forgot, and I looked it up because I thought it might have happened. They started the chamber last year. So I was like, you know what? That would be too lame.
Yeah.
I've already done it. Let's mix it up and do a different way. So, Chad Gable versus, Ciampa. Excuse me, I almost forgot who it was. So, in this particular order, here's how things will go. Chad Gable will eliminate Tommaso Ciampa. Now, not to say that they start the chamber and then Chad immediately eliminates Ciampa or anything. This is just throughout the match. I'm not going to book the entire match. That would be crazy. Gable eliminates Ciampa. Dominic Mysterio eliminates Sami Zayn second. Yes, Sami Zayn is the last entrant, but he's eliminated second. Why? Because he is last, everybody in the world knows when Sami's going to come out of his pod. Everyone, including Drew McIntyre. Now, why does Drew McIntyre care about Sami Zayn? Well, obviously, Sami cost him the match at Royal Rumble. That might be enough. But, you know what else Sami Zayn cost Drew McIntyre? The match against CM Punk. Wow. And that's it. Drew snaps.
Wow.
He's going to kill Sami now. So Sami's going after the world title that Drew now can't fight for. And when Sami's about to come out of the pod, the lights come back up. And there's no referee opening the door. It's Drew McIntyre. And he has locked Sami Zayn with a double padded lock in his pod. Sami cannot get out because the glass is bulletproof. It's chained on the top. Sami can't escape. Eventually, Chad Gable eliminates Tommaso Ciampa. As the door is opening for Ciampa to leave, Drew takes that opportunity and gets into the chamber and absolutely destroys Sami's pod, destroys Sami Zayn, and just throws him in the ring and leaves. And Dom, because he's a little snakety snake, just goes, "Ooh, thank you very much," and pins Sami Zayn. That furthers that story. Okay? Everybody following? Next, moving on down the match, Chad Gable eliminates Johnny Gargano, so he's eliminated both members of DIY. Then Chad Gable eliminates Dominic Mysterio. He now has 3 eliminations in this match. And is the final 2 with Seth Rollins. But Seth inevitably overcomes Chad Gable and retains the World Heavyweight Championship. But an unbelievable start to finish 3 elimination performance from Chad Gable. He is absolutely the MVP of this match. And yes, he doesn't win a championship, sure. He doesn't win a championship. He may not even fight for a championship at WrestleMania. But gosh darn it, that man deserves a lot more than to just be running around going, every single week. He deserves a lot more. We saw it against Gunther. He can freaking go in the ring. We all knew that he could. Yep. He just never got a chance to show it. He finally got a chance to show it. Just give this to him. Mm-hmm. Even if he doesn't win the match, let him show the world that he is fantastic. And you know what? If the plan is eventually to have Chad Gable beat Gunther for the IC title, which is still a possibility, you're going to have to build the guy back up. Why not start here?
That's a great way to do that.
So, Rollins retains. CM Punk wins the match against Drew McIntyre with a little bit of help from Sami Zayn. And so, that sets up CM Punk versus Seth freaking Rollins to main event night 1 of WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship. I know that was a lot, but I had to get all of it in there. I had to see how it all, you guys had to know how it all set up so that it all made sense, what stories are being told, which matches are being set up. Oh, and if it's not obvious, another match I'm setting up is Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I think that would just be a lovely match. And by the way, I would have Drew win that match.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sami.
That'd be fun. I think kicking off one of the 2 nights at Mania if that was a match. I like this. So I'm gonna backwards go into a different Mania match just because you just brought it up. So I actually like that you have Punk and Rollins at Mania because that's where I'm going with those 2.
Okay, there you go.
Rollins, Punk, Mania, but not for the title.
Okay.
So at Chamber, now I did a men's chamber match that's revolved around the Universal title, as we mentioned in the last podcast. So with Styles winning that, so he gets his number 1 contendership to face Roman at Mania. So I mean, you're not gonna have 2 men's. In my opinion, like that'd be a lot to put 2 men's number 1, 2 men's chamber matches on that card. We're already talking at least 1 or 2 other titles and likely a women's chamber match. So, with the Rumble, I mentioned who kind of like my final 5 were, and Punk and Rollins being in there. Punk eliminated Rollins to kind of stoke that fire a little bit again. Rollins has been busy in the title picture since they had their confrontation in Raw a couple weeks ago, and so we finally get that interaction with them again. Get a nice little tease. After Rumble, Rollins is like, hey, I didn't get pinned to lose my title. I've done, he goes on a nice long spiel, maybe in 2 weeks to kind of lick his wounds a little bit. But he comes like, it's like, I wasn't pinned, wasn't even in the ring. Drew was tossing me around. I didn't get a chance to, I didn't get a chance with the Rumble because of Punk, so I want a rematch. Pierce grants him a rematch because of the Fatal 4-Way, because of getting tossed in the Rumble. So Rollins gets his rematch versus Priest at Chamber, just 2 of them. And I was talking about earlier. We don't want to diminish a run with Priest wherever he cashes in, if he cashes in successfully. So if you have a short run, I feel like kind of just knocks him. It's like, hey, we're gonna throw you up here, just to take right back down. A month later. So I think at their current character arcs, it's kind of hard to believe Priest beating Rollins clean. So to again further an additional story, like you've done very well here, by the way. I really love how you've laid this out. Again, giving people that we don't see normally get a title shot, get another title shot. Again, building that pool of, hey, when we pull a couple people down, we have people ready to go back into a picture, keep that main title picture fresh. You've done, and that is a very good job at it too. So I really, really commend you for the creativity there.
Thank you.
So obviously,
sorry about putting Dom in there.
That's fine. you gotta have a heel somewhere, right? Right. So I think that's fun. And we tend to see more chamber matches for a title, not necessarily for number one contendership. We've seen a little of both, but as you mentioned, the U.S. title last year, it kind of makes sense. And Rollins is such a workhorse too. That's why I kind of go back to the character arcs of Priest and Rollins. Priest isn't gonna pin Rollins, I don't think, in this current state of these two characters, clean in chamber. So there's gonna be interference involved, but it's not gonna be Judgment Day interference for Priest, because I kind of even start to wonder, does Priest let this get to his head? And we've seen fractures in the Judgment Day already. Does this kind of further those fractures or not? I don't know. I think you kind of play with that, but to me, you don't get interference from Judgment Day. You get interference from CM Punk. Because again, I think we're going to get Punk's Rollins at Mania. As I said last week, I don't think it needs to be a title for those two. There's just so much animosity from Rollins to Punk that it's just like, Punk is kind of like, you want to deal with me? I'll show you what I can do. And so he interferes. Priest wins the match at Chamber. Priest retains. And so at Mania, we have Priest and Drew, and then we still get our CM Punk Rollins match, as you have to.
Yeah, I mean that totally makes sense. The thing that I am worried about a lot in booking the world title right now, we discussed it at the open of this podcast, is we have to treat Damian Priest very, very carefully. And the reason, and the unfortunate thing is, it's not Damian Priest's fault. He is just not Seth Rollins or CM Punk. Yet, I mean, quite frankly, nobody is. I don't think no matter what Damian Priest does,
right,
he's not going to have that much star power. So I think if you're going to put him in the mix with those guys, it's got to be done very, very carefully. And you talked about how right now you don't think that Damian Priest can beat Seth Rollins without help. And that is the kind of thing that scares me with Damian Priest, is that that's what everybody's going to think. Yeah. And so what I want to do is make it so that people believe that he can beat them without help. Or at the very least, he might be able to beat them without help, but he also has help just in case. Like, at the bare minimum, there's got to be that.
Yeah.
And so I think walking that tightrope is very difficult, because for me, having Priest cash in too early means that you're going to have to put him in this picture where everybody wants Seth versus Punk. Everybody. So to just shove Damian Priest in there, I would be scared for him. But also, if you do it too late, then you damage the credibility of the character of Damian Priest. Because if he, cashes in at a B pay-per-view?
Right.
Then him winning the title doesn't necessarily mean as much, because WrestleMania season's already passed. He didn't do it at Rumble, he didn't do it at Chamber, he didn't do it at Mania. He just did it at, 2 weeks after Mania on Raw. It's not going to mean as much,
yep.
Which means that whatever, you're still shoehorning him into the world title picture, so whatever stories you're telling, it's still going to not make. So it's just really difficult to book that. And so my only thing with you having a one-on-one matchup with Rollins is exactly what you said. Are we as fans going to get behind Damian Priest the way I want us all to get behind Damian Priest? I love Damian Priest. Full disclosure, when he first got to NXT, I did not like Damian Priest at all. I thought he was stiff. I thought that he wasn't adapting to the WWE style well. It didn't look like he had any sort of good timing in the ring. It just looked like he was lost. But he has gotten so much better. Now, I have to admit, he's still a little stiff sometimes. He's still kind of... But it is what it is. Like, nobody's perfect. So, he's gotten so much better, and they really treated him well. He's one of the few real NXT guys that when he got called up, they actually treated him well right away. Like, that does not happen. Well, it does happen now, but it didn't happen years ago. It would barely ever happen where guys would be, or maybe they'd be treated well for 2 weeks and then whew. But no, Priest was the United States champion pretty much immediately. He had like a 6-month title reign. He went into a real big feud at WrestleMania and immediately joins the Judgment Day. Like, really good stuff. So I like Damian Priest, and I'm happy to see him in the world title picture. The problem is, he's not CM Punk or Seth Rollins, and so casual fans or hardcore, even a lot of hardcore fans, even if they like Damian Priest, they're like, look, I like Damian, but he's no CM Punk. Or I like Damian, but he's no Seth Rollins. You really expect me to believe that he's going to go with those guys? Like, he's just not going to be as box office. He's not going to be as much of a draw as those guys, nor should he be at this point. And it's not, again, it's not his fault. He's wonderful. It's just that Seth and CM Punk are two of the generationally greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Two of the best in-ring workers.
And that's why I have more Punk interfering, because I feel like Punk interfering
kind of mitigates the credit. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily hurt Punk's. It doesn't hurt Priest's capability, or anything like that in the ring. But it's like Punk interfering is more of like, haha, Seth, I'm costing you. Not more of, hey, Priest, I know you need help. Because if it was a Judgment Day interference, then it's like, okay. But I think, especially if you can get a good match between the two of them, it's, again, yeah, it's a weird line. You gotta make Priest length meaningful. We were talking about this earlier tonight too. Maybe play a little hot potato with the World Heavyweight Championship. That's not a bad idea. You got so many players with it.
There doesn't need to be a bunch of year-long reigns. It could be a month, 2 months.
Yeah, and maybe that's what Priest is. He's an interim champ where it doesn't necessarily diminish him, but when he loses it, it's not necessarily like, well, we'll never see him again. Because we will.
Sure.
But yeah, no, that's kind of why I have that interference going that way. And I think, again, we go back to Drew's story, so that's why I have kind of Priest and Drew, because, Drew's like, hey, he's already butted heads with them anyway. And I mean, just those two guys, both are tall, both are kind of, big burly guys. So, I mean, I think just that alone would be a fun match. We still, and I feel, yes, it's not for the title, but I still feel we're servicing fans with giving them Seth Rollins and Punk at Mania. That's probably the close of one of the nights, whatever, they close the night opposite of whatever night Roman closes WrestleMania.
Sure.
You get Drew and Priest, they kick off one of the other nights or whatever.
Yep.
And maybe, so it's, yeah, so I feel like you're kind of, I feel like it was the only way I could get to servicing both stories of keeping Drew, but still getting to Punk and Rollins at Mania.
Fair enough. Yeah, Drew versus Damian would be a great match, obviously. So certainly wouldn't hate to see that either. But okay, going from Elimination Chamber to WrestleMania now. Again, to recap for me, I have CM Punk versus Seth freaking Rollins at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship. Straight up, no gimmicks, no gimmick match, no Hell in a Cell, no anything. It is just one-on-one. Who's the best in the world? I mean, that's it. It is Seth thinks he's the best in the world. CM Punk still thinks he's the best in the world. Let's see who is. Quite frankly, I don't really think I need to book a build to this because it's CM Punk and Seth Rollins. The story's there. CM Punk,
yes.
Seth Rollins absolutely unequivocally despises CM Punk and everything he stands for. He thinks that he abandoned the WWE, which he kind of did. He thinks he tried to burn the whole place down and tear it apart from the inside out and from the outside in, which he kind of did. He thinks that he spent his entire last decade saying how he would never come back, and then suddenly he comes back and thinks it's home. The story writes itself.
Yes.
And CM Punk, while right now he is all smiles and happy and thinks he's home, will he stay like that forever? Seth doesn't think so. Seth thinks he's just full of it and pretending and faking it just like he always has. But the main thing, again, we've talked about this before with our top 10 CM Punk video. If you haven't seen that, check it out. Is the promos that are going to come out of this. You don't need to put them in lame tag matches. Not that all tag matches leading up to big matches are lame, but a lot of them are lame. Let's be honest. Like, it's just, they're unnecessary.
These two guys are going to fight each other at match, but we're going to put them together just so we can watch them implode eventually.
Yeah, that's the one where you could just have them get in the ring and talk.
Yep.
You know what people used to do? You used to do like the State of the Union addresses in the ring, where like you have one guy at a podium and another guy at a podium, and one guy would read questions. You could bring that back for this, and it would be brilliant. Like,
so many ways you could just promo off these two. They don't even have to touch each other.
And I would only have them come to blows once before Mania. I wouldn't even have them lock up at all. I wouldn't have them wrestle in a tag match, like I said. I wouldn't have them, interfere in one another's single matches. I certainly wouldn't have CM Punk wrestle on TV before Mania, other than Elimination Chamber, obviously. If you want to have Seth wrestle a match and have CM Punk be doing commentary because he's amazing at commentary, it's literally like, he said it in the first week. He legit completely quoted the pipe bomb where he said, "Nobody's better than me in that ring, on that microphone, even at commentary, nobody can touch me." That was a famous line from his pipe bomb.
No.
So put him on commentary. Like, for a Seth Rollins match, and have him, have Seth win, have him, "I hate you, CM Punk, I hate you too." Like, whatever you want to do. I wouldn't even have them lock up, except for once. Raw before Mania, have them come to blows a little bit, have them fight, have security pull them apart. That's your WrestleMania main event. You don't have to do a whole lot with it. Not a crazy build. Now, the craziness will be at Mania.
Oh boy.
All right?
Oh boy.
So, Seth Rollins versus CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship. Main events night 1. Seth Rollins gets his WrestleMania main event that he has been so clamoring for since he has been in the company. He has never main evented WrestleMania, and it is a crime shame. He's going to main event it this year. CM Punk, very famously, had never main evented WrestleMania, despite the fact that he very much deserved it, despite the fact that he was WWE Champion for over a year. He did not main event. He fought Chris Jericho for the WWE Championship, like the second match on the card, and then he lost it just before WrestleMania the next year and fought The Undertaker. Great match, wasn't the main event. So, CM Punk also gets his WrestleMania main event. Is it the same as what it once was? No, because there's 2 nights now. So that's cheating in a way, I guess. But you know what? We say that the tag titles main evented WrestleMania last year for the first time, and it was night 1. It wasn't night 2. So I'm keeping the same logic here. They both get their WrestleMania main event. Everybody's happy except for Seth. Because CM Punk wins the World Heavyweight Championship. CM Punk comes back, beats a man who has not been pinned in almost a year in a one-on-one match. Has not been pinned in a year. So by the time you get to Mania, he will have not been pinned for 15 months. And CM Punk wins. CM Punk is celebrating. The confetti, the fireworks. Oh my God. And by the way, if I have it my way, it's one of the greatest matches of all time. Certainly one of the most hyped. And if CM Punk has anything left in the gas tank, like he did in AEW, that match is going to be amazing. But CM Punk proves that he is still the best in the world until Damian Priest's music hits.
Oh, here we go.
Just like Seth did 10 years-ish. I think was it 10 years ago? No, not quite 10 years
Maybe
ago.
9.
Maybe like 8 or 7, whatever it was. Damian Priest runs down to the ring as CM Punk is beat up and tired and exhausted. And this time, Sammy got annihilated by Drew earlier on in the night. Sammy's not going to come out to help. Jey Uso is not in the building because he's got to prepare for his match with Jimmy the next night. He's not there. Seth Rollins looks on and sees that Damian Priest is about to cash in. Just like he tried to do against Seth so many times, and so many people helped Seth to make sure he kept his title. And Seth looks, shakes his head, and walks away. Damian Priest finally cashes in, beats CM Punk to the biggest chorus of boos this side of Dominic Mysterio. The nuclear heat that Damian Priest would get for ruining CM Punk's coronation would be so immense, I'd darn near say it would make him the most talked about superstar in the company. Which is exactly what I'm going for when you've got a guy who's not as interesting as Seth Rollins or CM Punk. You need to give people a reason to put him on that level. And cashing in after the main event of WrestleMania on CM Punk will hopefully do that. Now, is it a guarantee? No. But to me, I can't think of any other way for him to cash in that doesn't either ruin WrestleMania's main event for me or discredit Damian Priest. I had to find a way to do both. But the best part is, now you can go in a myriad of ways. Let's say you wanted Drew McIntyre to come out and attack CM Punk because he's still pissed off. Maybe that's why you cash in. Drew McIntyre reinserts himself into that title picture. You can have something with Drew. Maybe you just want to do Damian Priest versus CM Punk. Maybe you want to do Damian Priest versus CM Punk versus Seth freaking Rollins in a triple threat match. Maybe you want to do a fatal four-way at WrestleMania Backlash. If it was up to me, I would have had Drew McIntyre come down, beat the ever-living crap out of CM Punk, want another world title shot, because at this point Drew has fully lost the plot. He's just attacking everybody that moves when it involves that title. He's completely lost his mind, and he's vicious, and he's violent, and he's just destroying everybody, which allows Damian Priest to cash in quite easily, and this time Drew's not going to stop him, because he doesn't care at this point. If it was up to me, WrestleMania Backlash, Damian Priest versus Seth freaking Rollins versus CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre, and have Damian go over. You want to solidify a guy?
True.
Have him beat all of his challengers at once. You and I have both said it. There's plenty of challengers on Raw, even if Cody goes to SmackDown. Mm-hmm. You've still got Jay, especially if he beats Jimmy. Mm-hmm. You've still got Sammy. You've got any of those other four guys, if any of them doesn't get beat. Say you have Damian pin Seth. Seth goes away for a little bit. I think he deserves it. He needs to heal his back. Have him beat Seth. CM Punk is still there. Mm-hmm. Drew McIntyre is still there. You want to do your Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest match? Go right ahead. Like, that's how you solidify the leader of the Judgment Day, your new World Heavyweight Champion. And here's the most important part. To retain that title at Backlash, I know we're only booking to WrestleMania, but just bear with me.
Yeah, I'll let you get by with it.
Finn Balor, Finn Balor, Dominic, JD, they don't interfere. He beats him by himself. I think that's so important. Think about how many matches the Imperium has interfered in Gunther's matches. 0 times. It's not because they don't care about him. It's because Gunther doesn't need them to win. think you need to solidify that. Ironically, until Gunther destroys him at some point and takes his title off.
I'm waiting for you to throw his name in there.
But look, that way, yes, would I love to see Gunther destroy Seth just because the match would be great? Sure, but you know what? I'll take him destroying Damian too, because he's not hurting anybody's credibility. I don't think, even if Damian eventually ascends to that level, anybody would blame Damian Priest for losing to Gunther.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, so... I know I booked way into the future, guys, but you gotta understand where I was going with it, because I have my reasons for things.
And I like it. I do. You know, I think you marry that almost better than where I was kind of picturing, where it's like, you want Priest solidified, but yeah, what better than him pulling a Rollins on Punk?
I mean, you talk about... I mean, that's the only thing that I could think of that people will now not look at Damian Priest as an afterthought in the Seth Rollins versus CM Punk feud, or oh, well, I was hoping that Seth versus Punk would be for the title, but I guess I'll take Damian Priest in the title picture, and we'll just do something like... Yeah. As much as I love what you did in terms of... I would love to see Seth versus Drew. Come on, buddy. Damian versus Drew at Mania for the title, because they're both guys that don't get in that picture very often, or at least they don't face each other. Damian, it would be new. I assume you would have Damian win. So, okay, maybe not, but at least for me, if I was booking that match, I'd have Damian win. And that way you have, a young... I say a young guy. Do y'all know he's, 40? He's not young.
Yeah.
But...
a lot of 40s.
He's not young.
Right now.
But, a new champion getting really solidified at Mania. That makes sense to me, but I think cashing in Money in the Bank at Mania does all that, but also he's no longer an afterthought because you just had the big blow-off match. Everybody already had the match that they wanted.
Yep.
You got the moment that you wanted. You got CM Punk winning the title. You got Seth versus Punk. Now, if Damian Priest cashes in now, he's not an afterthought. He is the only thing that guys are talking about.
Yep.
And that's what you need to do with Damian. It was like Edge, when he cashed in Money in the Bank. He's told this story a million times, where the company didn't believe in him. Vince was the only one that thought it was a good idea for Edge to actually win a world title. And they said, look, you're not going to be in the world title picture at WrestleMania, no matter what you do. But we're going to put the title on you at New Year's Revolution in January, when WrestleMania is in April. And if you do well enough, maybe we'll consider you for another title run down the road. And ratings went up so big when he was champion because of how he cashed in, and it made such perfect sense for his character that even though they took the title off of him at Royal Rumble 3 or 4 weeks later, and he wasn't in the title picture at Mania, he went on to win 11 more world titles in his career. And he's one of the greatest of all time. He's obviously a Hall of Famer. We all know Edge. Mm-hmm. And the reason why he was what he was because he cashed in such a way that he was the talk of the town. Even though it was against John Cena, and everybody loved John Cena, and nobody thought at that time that Edge was a main event player in the company. But if you do it right, you can make Damian. You can force people. I have to talk about Damian Priest. Are you kidding me? Yeah. One of the greatest matches we've ever seen, and Damian Priest stole the show. Wow.
What heat. Like you said, what heat. Just forefront, everybody's talking about it. And so, like you said, so many directions. Triple threat, fatal four-way. Again, new matchups, bring back some old matchups.
Damian versus Finn.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd love to see that before he loses the title. Yeah. Eventually, have him beat Finn. And, that can be your Judgment Day semi-implosion type deal.
Yep. There's so many ways to do that. And it's, and it'd be a successful, and I think we both, and I like the same thought we have of having a successful cash-in. I feel like we haven't had that in a couple of years. And it's just been booked weird to begin with, too. So having a successful cash-in.
I know last year was Theory.
Right.
Who was before? Wasn't it Otis?
It was Otis the year before that, because that was...
it was The Miz, technically. Miz beat Bobby Lashley. Or no, not Bobby Lashley. He beat Drew, didn't he?
No, Otis was 2 years, 2 Money Banks.
Right, but Otis lost the briefcase to The Miz. He never cashed in. He actually lost it to The Miz.
That's right.
And The Miz ended up cashing in and I'm pretty sure he cashed it in against Drew. And then Bobby just annihilated The Miz. And
Right,
then Drew
'cause
came
that
back
hurt
at
him.
Mania to try and get the title back and lost, which
That's
is
right.
the story that I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
With Bobby and him saying, "Oh, I
But
didn't win the
so
title."
convoluted in their booking of that briefcase recently, where it's just like, okay,
it is very convoluted.
Because Theory was like the big buildup of Theory with the briefcase last year was like maybe he gets he does actually go after Roman, and at that time I was always kind of thinking it'd be great to kind of would actually have a match between those two. Theory declare which belt he was going for because they weren't unified at the time when he had the briefcase, and that way you could have kept Universal on Roman. Theory has a title, and you go full range of that, but then they basically bury Theory.
Well, yeah,
that's what I was sure for a time.
But
again, a successful cash in, a good story. That's both for aims here. Kind of jealous I didn't think of maybe having Drew at Mania instead cash in. But so I definitely like that, and I honestly feel like you could, I'd almost put whatever iteration of Rollins and Punk we were to get at Mania, if we get that this year, which I think we will. I hope we will for sure. I almost think that's night 2. Like if you want to go true main event, night 1 takes.
In your booking,
night 2.
but my night 2 is Cody finishing the story.
Yeah.
And your night 2 would be Roman versus AJ. Sure, you want to put Damien's big moment at night 2, it makes sense. But for me, I'm not compromising. Cody is gosh darn winning that sucker, and he's main event night 2, and that's all I have to say about it.
But I'm just saying you could.
That's all I gotta say about that.
You could put Punk and Rollins night 2.
You totally.
There
I'm
you go.
I'm
Just because of that, because that match, where everybody in WWE, that's a fan, even the least little bit right now, just wants that match so bad. It's like, that's gonna rival that might be match of the decade, honestly.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be up there. Assuming that CM Punk's had health issues, injuries and everything. Well, I'm hoping his body can hold up in a match like that against Seth. But Seth's a pretty safe worker, so I assume that they'll be fine and it's going to be awesome. And he's not going to pull a Shane McMahon and blow out his knee and Mania. Oh man, that was brutal, man. Ugh. But anyways. Okay, so that's it, guys. We've kind of covered all the world title matches in WWE through WrestleMania. We got Universal title last week, world title this week. Let us know what you guys think.
Yes.
Which one? I don't think I've asked this in any of the other videos, but which one did you like better? Did you like Dan's booking better, or did you like my booking better? Let's see if we can get some kind of vote going, or get some kind of consensus going there. Did you like Seth versus Punk at Mania with Damian Priest cashing in, or did you like Drew versus Damian at WrestleMania with Damian already have cashed in early on? So let us know what you guys think in the comments section below. Keep an eye out for the future episodes. As of right now, I'm not sure which episode is coming next, but we still got the tag titles, both sets, and we've got the Intercontinental title coming up as well.
Women's title as well.
And the women's titles, obviously. I don't know how I forgot that. That's really bad. I'm very sorry. But we have all those coming up. So obviously just keep an eye out. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we will see you next time.